All right, Title 42 goes away in 2 days. Over 6 million people have crossed the border illegally since Joe Biden has become president. Numbers as high as 25% increases are coming down the road here. Alejandro Mayorkas says that the border is secure. It's not wide open. Is there anyone that really believes that? Looking at the poll numbers, almost 2/3 of voters don't believe Biden's up to the task of the job. Who thinks the border is secure?
Nobody does, but that isn't the point of the statement. It's just pure gaslighting us to deflect attention from the failures of this administration. Look, Andrew, I've been to the border. I went down to Yuma, and I met with the folks at the hospital that have over $26 million in uncompensated care that they provided to illegal aliens. I went and met with the farmers who are describing the fact that they have to destroy crops because of the invasion that we're seeing on the southern border. Even watching the news this week, over the last couple of days, at least the newscasters and the mainstream media are starting to say, look, all of these are young men around 20, 30 years old, very few children, very few women. What is this all about? Well, the fact is we're seeing an invasion. We have over 150 countries that have come across that border illegally. It's going to affect every community in this state. In fact, I was just back in Wyoming. I did 6 town halls in 6 different counties, traveled almost 1,500 miles in just a few days. And one of the very top issues that everybody addresses with me is, what are we going to do about securing the border? And why in the world would the Biden administration try to destroy our country by bringing in our enemies?
Let me ask you something. In my argument, I've been making this argument that this open border is being weaponized to flip red states to blue. So let me ask you this. Wyoming, solid red state. Let's say the federal government, using affirmatively furthering fair housing, Build Back Better, and the Green New Deal, were to place 500,000 migrants in the state of Wyoming, offering them all of the perks and benefits of the taxpayer-funded welfare state. What would that do to the electorate in Wyoming?
Well, keep in mind, Andrew, we only have 560,000 people in the state of Wyoming. So if he were to bring an additional 500,000 illegal aliens into Wyoming, you literally have completely replaced the population. One of the things people need to understand is that there are more than 10 times the population of Wyoming has crossed that border illegally in the last 2 years. With 560,000 people, there are over 5 million people. That doesn't count all the getaways. But literally, if they were to do something like that, you would completely change the entire makeup of the state of Wyoming. That's double our population. We don't have the housing for it. We don't have the resources for it. But here's what I'm going to go back to from the very famous economist who said, you can either have an open border or you can have a welfare state, but you can't have both because one's going to collapse the other. That's where we are right now. I agree with you that that's somewhat of the philosophy that they're pursuing, but it's also just pure politics. It's an effort to deflect attention from everything else that they're doing, and they just simply have lost operational control of the border, and it is a tragedy for everybody in this country, but it's also a tragedy when you look at the level of human and sex trafficking and the fact that this is, I describe Joe Biden as the largest human trafficker in U.S. history. And he's a drug smuggler because he's the person who has enabled this.
Wyoming has lots of land, not a lot of people, as you just described it, right? You have 2 senators. The Democrats want to apportion the Senate. They can't. They want to make D.C. and Puerto Rico states. Right now, they can't. But if they were to bring tens of thousands of people into Wyoming with the purpose of making them citizens and thus voters, the at-large seat which you occupy and the 2 Senate seats would go Democrat in probably 1, maybe 2 election cycles. They could flip states like Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, like this, by simply moving migrants in, using affirmatively furthering fair housing, zoning restrictions, creating federal housing, federal health care facilities, increased numbers of public school teachers, government school teachers. I mean, it might sound crazy, but it is doable.
Well, it might sound crazy, but who would have thought some of the things that we're dealing with right now in society in the United States of America 5 years ago we wouldn't have been talking about. So I don't anymore say something sounds crazy, because if the Democrats can destroy something, they'll do it. And so you're exactly right. But also keep in mind, 48% of our surface estate is owned by the federal government. What were to happen if they were to come in and say, okay, we're going to build our own housing and bring folks in? There are so many different things. And your entire Western United States is that way. So Montana, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada is 75 to 80% federally owned. So you've got throughout the interior West, you have such an enormous amount of federal acreage, in addition to which it's exactly what you say. These are strongholds for conservatism, for common sense, for actually serving the citizens of this country. And if you've got a Democrat administration that is as bent as this one is on destroying the foundation of our country and our constitutional republic, God knows what they could do.
Federal land being converted into migrant cities, essentially, right? I mean, they could, and they would say this is going to create jobs in construction, in education, in healthcare, right? You're going to have you would need massive upgrades to public infrastructure. I mean, it would only take maybe a few years to get this plan in motion if Democrats were to, let's say, maintain in 2024, maybe take back the House of Representatives. They already want a $7 trillion budget. They're fighting like you know what to keep these spending cuts from coming into effect from your plan, the Republican plan in the House of Representatives. You know, one step ahead of the crowd, you're a leader. Two steps, you're a crackpot. You and I are like 10 steps down the road. But this is not conspiracy theory. If they had their way, they would do it.